2, 3.
Yeah.
Please welcome District Governor Steve Wright.
One of the joys of being a district governor is following somebody like Ted Robinson. As most of you know, Paul Harris founded Rotary in 1905, not that far before your club charter. He once said, "This is a changing world, and we must be prepared to change with it." The story of Rotary will have to be written again and again. Your club is a testament to that, the reality that you could not stay the same. Now, it's been obvious to me for a long time that a lot of your members are from Hillsborough, and your board, without anybody else saying a word, your board decided that a change had to be made. So I'm here in my official capacity tonight, and it's an honor to be here, truly, to announce formally that your club has been approved as the Rotary Club of Burlingame and Hillsborough. And very shortly, I'll point up there and you can look. And while they're getting set up there, I'd like to take a moment, just a very brief moment, to pivot to one of the most important social programs, health programs, world community service programs that any organization has ever attempted. In 1985, Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation said, "We are going to eliminate polio." At that time, there were 350,000 new cases every year. In the year 2024, the year that just ended, we took that 350,000 down to 98. Polio Plus has been the only corporate project Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation has ever tackled. The district governor in 86, 87, a gentleman by the name of Sid Berlin, determined back when we were still District 513, 513, that he was going to convince every Rotarian in our district to donate to the Polio Plus campaign. To do that, we had 4,100 members in our district at the time. It was a much larger district geographically. And to do that, he turned to a certain Rotarian in the district who agreed to match every donation made that year, dollar for dollar. Sid was aware that if he could get our district to be 100% donor to the foundation and to Polio Plus, that we could lead the world. That individual who made that happen to meet these pledges dollar for dollar to where all 4,100 Rotarians donated is a longtime member of the Rotary Club of Burlingame and Hillsborough. He's been a member, when I say long time, since January 1st, 1972. It is my deep honor and pleasure and privilege to welcome to the stage your next speaker, your member, Mr. Ted Kruttschnitt. Hey,
Let's see. Post. Clock. Thank you, District Governor Steve. I was born locally in Mills Hospital, grew up in Burlingame, is one of the longer serving members. I've been asked to speak tonight a little bit about the history of the club, some of the memories, some of the highlights, and some of the lowlights. So there really is much to celebrate 100 years. RI, Rotary International, was formed in Chicago 120 years ago in 1905. Thereafter, the concept of Rotary grew rapidly, service above self. In January 1925, 100 years ago this month, the just formed Centennial Rotary Club sponsored Burlingame Rotary. The new club had 20 initial members. Those members were a who's who of the male business group in Burlingame. In the first 20 years, the club grew rapidly, and it soon had 80 members. The first meeting of Burlingame Rotary that I attended was in 1960, 65 years ago, when 3 of my senior classmates and I were invited to Burlingame Rotary to receive a college scholarship, each in the amount of $100 one time. The person inviting us to that meeting that day was Vic Mangini, Dean of Boys at the high school, future 4-time mayor of Burlingame, future president of Burlingame Rotary. In 1989, Rotary International made the decision to accept female members. It was undoubtedly the best decision ever made by the RI board. In that same year, the first female member of Burlingame Rotary was Joan Martin, the Wells Fargo manager in charge of all of Mike Harvey's loans. By an amazing coincidence, Joan was sponsored by Mike Harvey. Today, you'll talk later, Mike. So today, approximately 1/3 of all the club's members are female, and they contribute every year significantly to the success of the club. Over the years, where have we met? The Legion Tea Shop, Russell's Bake Shop, Portola Hotel at the corner of Burlingame Avenue in Lorton, Orchard's Candy Store, the Burlingame Women's Club, Bob's on Broadway, the Airport Marina Hotel, the Crown Plaza Hotel, the Hyatt Regency, the Hyatt Convention Tent, the Burlingame High School Cafeteria, Sheraton Gateway Hotel, the Doubletree Hotel, Poplar Creek Golf Course, Green Hills Country Club, and currently the Burlingame Community Center, beautiful new facility where we're very happy and hope to be for some time. So club traditions have off and on included a special welcoming for the incoming president. Once when we were meeting at the Sheraton, it was to be Bob Davidson's first meeting as president. We diverted all of the arriving members to the bar, which did not really help Bob's nervousness as a first-time president. He was waiting in the convention center, and after some refreshments, we finally joined him. Also, for some reason, for the first meeting of many of the new presidents, his or her very carefully prepared notes disappeared just before the start of the meeting. Right? Other club traditions, the visit by the district governor, a highlight not to be missed. After a while, the club bulletin editor learns not to put in the date that the district governor is coming. The beginning of the year forecast, frequently presented by one of our members, usually an economic forecast, a commercial real estate forecast, or if there are no other alternatives, a very optimistic auto dealer forecast. Other club traditions. Mark Johnson arriving late at the meetings. Burlingame Rotary softball team. Bay Meadows Racetrack, night at the races. Picnic at Washington Park. Club assembly, club barbecues. Poker tournaments at the club barbecues. Toss the president into the pool at the barbecue, which became a lot more interesting when we started having female presidents. Joint Service Club luncheon with the Lions, Kiwanis, and/or Seroptimus. Past President's Day. Burlingame Goes Hollywood. Burlingame's Got Talent. Joe LaMariana's house. Both for new members' indoctrination as well as various groups of foreign exchange students. Little Big Game lunch with San Mateo Rotary, plus the football teams, bands, and cheerleaders. This is a picture of Bill Kenny, who is with us tonight, then president of the San Mateo Rotary, presenting the turkey to me at the Burlingame Club, since Burlingame High that once again prevailed over San Mateo High in the prior Little Big Game. The Christmas holiday lunch, golf tournament. Guests of all types are always encouraged for the tournament. Afterwards, there's nothing better than having a beer or two with your guest. Perhaps you recognize someone in that picture. Other club traditions, the Super Bowl betting pool, the elaborately choreographed presidents debunking each year. Now here's a picture from Marilyn Orr's debunking. In the middle, you have Marilyn, who apparently let her hair grow long and curly for this special occasion. Second from the left, Husband Rich, past president of the San Mateo Rotary, shown here when he still had hair. On the far right, Loggie Anderson, debonair as usual. And to the right of Marilyn, Doug McGeorge, playing the part of the dirty old man from Lapton, a part for which he was perfectly suited. And yours truly on the left, in one of my several Ruth Buzzy outfits. I do apologize for my smudged lipstick, but Doug, the dirty old man, got a little carried away with the skit. One of our old traditions back in the days when there was a San Mateo Times newspaper, J. Hart Clinton, owner-publisher of the paper and San Mateo Rotarian, would have delivered in advance to our meeting excerpts from that night's paper. But sometimes on slow news days, we would just make up a newscast. Here are a couple items from one such newscast. We're having a Burlingame City Council election in just 2 weeks. Like any election, there are very precise campaign laws. One of the incumbents running for election is Mary. Is there any organization I haven't been elected president of yet? Janney. As you know, Mary is the general manager of Sterling Court, the senior facility at the corner of El Camino and Peninsula Avenue. It turns out that 5 of the 6 candidates properly reported all of their campaign contributions. The one exception was our very own beloved 4-way test, past district governor, Mary, who accidentally forgot to report more than half of her contributions. But thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, the Newscast Committee has now been able to obtain a copy of Mary's amended filing. And it turns out that the 7 accidentally overlooked contributors, each in the maximum permitted amount, include, number 1, John Crosby, owner of the Crosby and Gray Funeral Home, as well as proprietor of the one-way pneumatic body tube that passes under Peninsula Avenue in a northerly direction from Sterling Court to Mr. Crosby's facility. The other 6 contributors, Michael R. Harvey, M.R. Harvey, Michael Harvey, Mike Harvey, M. Harvey, and finally, Mr. Harvey. One more item from the same newscast that day. At last week's City Council meeting, there was a motion from Councilperson Galligan, who moved that, effective immediately, the council be reduced in size from 5 council members to 3 council members. The motion was seconded by Mayor Coffey and Councilperson Janney. Councilperson O'Mahony asked City Manager Nantel if such a motion is legal. City Manager Nantel quickly responded, absolutely. The measure passed by a 3-2 vote with Coffey, Galligan, and Janney voting in the affirmative. The council then voted as to which individuals would continue as council members. By a 3-2 vote, the new council was determined to be Coffey, Galligan, and Janney. And the final agenda item for the remaining 3 council members was a motion by Mayor Coffey that in light of their increased responsibilities, the pay for each council member should be raised retroactively to $75,000 per year. Councilpersons Galligan and Janney seconded the motion with alacrity, and the motion passed unanimously without discussion. And by the way, Mike Coffey, Joe Galligan, and Mary Janney were all Rotarians. Sadly, Mary passed 2 months ago, as you all know. One of our other newscasts was about Mike Harvey's 5-story former Beacon's warehouse on Broadway, just east of the tracks. At that time, and Mike's tearing up over here, so you help him. So at that time, the building had conspicuously sat vacant for 19 consecutive years. At that time, we had in Rotary Bob Davidson, former city engineer of Burlingame, who then became city manager of Hillsborough, and Dennis Argyris, city manager of Burlingame. And at that time, Hillsborough was being threatened with litigation for not having negotiated an extension of its sewage disposal agreement. So in the newscast, we suggested that as a global solution, the 2 city managers get together to negotiate for a new sewer drainage pipe to run from Hillsborough under Broadway Avenue and then run free-flowing into the Beacons building, thus allowing Mike's proudest ever real estate investment, after standing idle for 19 years, to finally, as we say in real estate, find its highest and best use. Other traditions of the club, Mystery Night bus trip. Each year, we hope that the bus driver, or at least one Rotarian, knew where we were going. Other traditions, a vast array of excellent speakers, frequently drawn from our own membership. The introduction of the speakers was often interesting, and the elapsed time of the introduction sometimes matched that of the actual speech. I am pleased to report tonight that our very own Baba is carrying on that tradition. Speaking of Baba, it has been reported that he has never had an unspoken thought. Another great tradition over the many years within our club has been generational Rotary. Al Glass was a longtime member, followed by Al's son, Greg, followed by Greg's son, David, who is with us tonight. Another prominent Rotary family, Bill Crosby, followed by his son, Bill Crosby, 4-time mayor of Burlingame, followed by his son, John Crosby. And early in our club's history, there was George W. Williams, followed by his son, George, followed by his son, Scott, followed by his son, Sean. 4 generations, all within our club. And Scott and Sean are with us tonight. And finally, one recent tradition that has really helped our membership is when married couples join the club. We now have 5 married couples in the club. One variation of that is what Alexi and I did 20 years ago. We call it Meet Your Next Spouse at Rotary. And by the way, we were married by Rotarian and Pastor Paul Waltermold. Yeah. So tonight, if you are here alone, look around the room. Oh, look at Cheryl Young looking around the room. On the other hand, if you're not here alone, it's probably best that you not look around the room. Community service projects. Over the many years, Rotary has had a disproportionately high representation on the city council, the planning commission, school boards, nonprofit boards, etc. Rotary was instrumental in forming the Crippled Children's Easter Seal Society. The club adopted Burlingame High School. The club sponsored the Rotary Interact Group at the high school. The club provided the public address system at the high school. Job shadowing by Burlingame High School students of Burlingame Rotarians. The one exception, clearly, and we're forever thankful for this, being they are not allowed to job shadow auto dealers. The club assisted in operating the USO Lounge at SFO. At Samaritan House, the club helped serve the homeless one night per week. Occasionally, a wayward Rotarian would be counted among the homeless. The club painted the Community Gate Path building. The club helped refurbish Heritage Park on Occidental Avenue. The club provided the new flagpole at the train depot. The club picked up trash along Bayshore Freeway, now 101. The club manned the wine booth at Art in the Park. The club manned the beer booth at Burlingame on the Avenue. The club's annual scholarship program, which in turn leads each year to a few very inspirational speeches by students returning to this area. And of course, each year the club generously contributes to various local nonprofits. International projects. Over the years, Burlingame Rotary has participated in many international projects in addition to Polio Plus. Borneo Health Project. Thank you, Dr. Joe Whitehouse. Wheelchair Foundation. Japanese exchange students. Thank you, Edagawa Rotary. The Medical Clinic for Agricultural Workers in Baja, California. Project Amigo in Mexico. Equipment for a trade school in Ensenada. And Rotoplast, correcting cleft palates for South American youngsters. So Rotary has accomplished a lot in 100 years. Did we have any fun along the way? Well, let's look at a couple of things here. About 3 years after joining Rotary, I was asked to get in line to become president. I knew that the club, our club, paid for the incoming president and his then wife to go to the international convention. So alertly, I asked, so where will the international convention be in my year? I was told San Francisco, California. Back then, being more astute, I then asked, where is the next international convention? I was told Tokyo, Japan. I then quickly mentioned that probably would be a better fit with my calendar. At the Tokyo International Convention, my then wife and I spent a lot of time with Bill and Sue Kenny, and both Bill and Sue are here tonight. Bill was the incoming president of San Mateo Rotary. We knew each other from before working in the Cal Alumni Club of the Peninsula. The connection between our two clubs really blossomed thereafter. The annual Little Big Game lunch with the San Mateo and Burlingame football teams, the annual attendance contest between San Mateo and Burlingame Rotary. Our official attendance keeper was George Braden, who marked you present if you were there, or if George guessed you perhaps thought about being there. After only 15 consecutive years of losing, the San Mateo Club very alertly ended the contest. a periodic joint barbecue with the two clubs with spouses, a 4-day, 3-night river rafting trip each May organized by San Mateo Rotary, but to which several Burlingame Rotarians were invited. That trip continued for about 15 years, but finally the May snow melt, causing the rivers to be rather cold, and the Class 4 river rapids took their toll. So then for the next 20 years, the same 20 to 25 guys switched their focus to an annual unofficial diplomatic exchange mission to the Rotary Club of Mazatlan. The Mazatlan Rotarians were nice enough to arrange fishing trips for us. Some of us did okay. But by the way, the Rotary Club of Mazatlan is very unusual in a few ways. They meet in the evenings. In fact, they meet 7 evenings a week. And in fact, they always meet at Senior Frogs. Every year, we remarked how young and enthusiastic those Mazatlan Rotarians were. And I can't quite see the screen from here, but I think in the upper left corner, you might be able to see someone who, if you can picture Mike Harvey with hair, is there in the upper left corner. And I'm right behind him, having him in a headlock so that he did not embarrass the rest of the group. Another unofficial 10-day Rotary trip for the two clubs was one organized to Costa Rica by our very same good friend, Mike Harvey. Others on the trip were Joe Galligan and Bob Hortop, along with Jim Chalmers, Tom Mack, and Wally Crone from the San Mateo Club. Our first stop was at Tortuguera on the Atlantic Ocean side, where we went tarpon fishing. I happened to catch 3 tarpon, each about 30 inches long. I decided to keep one as a souvenir. Early the next morning, we flew in a small plane to the headwaters of the Rio Pacuari. When we landed, we were at 10,000 feet elevation in the middle of a Costa Rican jungle. Mike had received a very good discount when he booked the charter flight. Unfortunately, the dirt landing strip was somewhat shorter than the pilot thought. After we recovered from the landing, we then spent 2 days rafting in the middle of the jungle down 67 miles of Class 4 rapids, spending the night in between in one-man tents, which we pitched Boy Scout style on the riverbank. When we woke up for the second day's rafting, Mr. Harvey got a little animated when he noticed large animal footprints around his tent. When Mike asked what the footprints were, the guide said it looked to him to be like an adult black panther, which was somewhat common in the jungle. When Mike asked the guide why his tent was the one of interest, the guide suggested that Mike carefully inspect what was in his tent. After a couple of minutes, Mike started screaming some rather un-Rotary-like, unmentionable things when he found a smelly 30-inch long tarpon under his sleeping bag. Our very same good friend, Mike Harvey, used to live on in a very nice home on a very nice street called Seabury Court in Hillsborough. One night, Mike and Chris, his charming wife, gave a very elegant outdoors, black tie, dimly lit, romantic dinner for many of the Rotarians and their spouses. A longtime Burlingame Rotarian, Bob McAllen, was there and lived just 1 block away. While the dinner dishes were being cleared and before dessert was served, Bob and I excused ourselves and went to Bob's house, where we quickly changed out of our tuxes and into adult bug costumes, which Bob kept in his closet for special occasions, just like this. When we returned to the dinner, we were late, so I suggested we just climb over the wall to where everyone was sitting in the backyard. We miscalculated, both fell into some rose bushes in the darkness. We started screaming, whereupon several of the gals present also started screaming. Chris Harvey never did invite us to another dinner. And finally, one of our more memorable presidents was Ogden White. At one of our meetings, there was a demonstration of the jaws of life that our club had just purchased for the Hillsborough Police Department. Everyone knows Hillsborough is impoverished, so we help out when we can. All the members went outside to the Sheraton parking lot for the demonstration. The jaws of life was soon efficiently pulling apart the car into little pieces, when suddenly a tow truck pulling a junk car arrived, and the truck driver apologized for being late. While at the same time, a businessman with a briefcase ran out from the hotel screaming that was his car that had just been torn apart. When truth was finally told, it was simply another one of Mike's many, many unsold but very well insured used cars that had been torn apart. So finally, let us reflect. Very few organizations live to be 100. What's different about Rotary? These days, the media is ripe with those who are highly accomplished in bemoaning problems. By contrast, Rotary is all about a fellowship of community leaders who come together in a common cause to identify problems and then efficiently proceed to solve them. That formula is repeated each year in all 46,000 Rotary clubs across the world. Rotary does work. We do have a lot to celebrate. Thank you. You all have champagne in front of you. So I would like to propose a toast to the next 100 years of success of the Burlingame and Hillsborough Rotary Club.